YouTube, Kaijudoyoshi here. I'm here for the next part of my Shield Blast discussion, and today I'm going to be talking about the supporting Shield Blasts, the ones that will advance your own position in the game, and I'm going to be talking about the average destruction, medium destruction, the destruction cards in the game that have medium costs, like 4 to 5, and these cards are going to be like the cards that are good when you draw them. They're going to be good in your Shield Blast, but they're not going to be amazing in either one of them. Alright, so yeah. Let's get started with the control cards. I just have some examples here. Breach the Veil, Sprout, Spy Mission, and Crystal Memory. I'm just going to go over these real quick. Breach the Veil. Obviously all of these are Shield Blasts. Breach the Veil says, look at the top 5 cards of your deck. You can take one of them, or you can take one monster from them and put it in your hand. And then you put the other ones on the bottom of your deck in any order. Sprout says, put the top card of your deck in your mana zone. Spy Mission says, draw 2. Crystal Memory says, search your deck for any card and put it in your hand, then shuffle. Alright, so each of these cards obviously has its own use in certain decks, but it's kind of hard to know which one you should probably be using these in. If you're building something like a Rush deck, I don't think support cards are that amazing in Rush. I mean, mana acceleration is important in Rush, so Sprout is a decent choice, but Rush already has problems with you're just losing advantage every turn, and if you drop your entire field and then you lose it, you have no way of getting a comeback. You're just taking cards off the top of your deck and hoping that you can get like strong monsters and stuff. So with Sprout's not going to help you in any of those situations. It's like you mana for your turn, which you're already losing advantage for. Then you're using this, you're losing more advantage. You just put the top card of your deck in your mana zone. So I don't think that Sprout is good in any deck, and I would not recommend running Sprout in any of your decks. I think there are better cards. With Evo Fury coming out, there's Reap and Sow. Look at the top 2 cards of your deck, add one to your hand, and mana the other one. That is a much better card because you get the card in your hand. That's very good. I mean, you replace you put another card into your mana zone without losing anything. So that's why that would obviously be better than Sprout. Breach the Veil is another one of these. I don't really like this card in any decks kind of thing. It's okay. There's no guarantee you can hit anything, which is like the biggest drawback on Breach the Veil. And the fact that you only get to look at the top 5 is another bad thing. I don't understand how with Crystal Memory it's a 4 and you can search your deck for anything. And then Breach the Veil being 1 less, I think it should be able to search just any monster in general. While I don't think that would be very good to have like Breach the Veil and Crystal Memory, just basically being able to search any monster in your deck. I still think that Breach the Veil should have been designed in the way that you just search your deck for any monster and add it to your hand. But yeah, I don't think that this is a very good card now. I think that there needs to be a lot more support Shield Blast. Mainly when people think of Shield Blast, they think of like destruction and not so much as support. But I still think that support cards are really important in Shield Blast. You know, if you're playing against Rush, they break 1 to 2 at a time. If they hit a Crystal Memory, you can search for whatever thing you need to get rid of their stuff. If you want to search for a Barrage, you can search for a Barrage. A lot of time, like when I'm playing my Water Darkness control deck, I'll search for a Refi. And they honestly, like, they can't go over Refi. It's just 1000s, 2000s, and stuff like that. And you just search your deck for the blocker that you needed. So that's why I think that support cards are good. But yeah, going back on track. Then there's Spy Mission, who is just obsolete, mainly because Logo Scan exists. And I personally think Crystal Memory is better than Spy Mission. But Spy Mission, drawing 2 is obviously good. You get the +1, which is obviously amazing. But, like I said, the 1 extra mana it really makes it not as good as Logo Scan. In the decks that you play this in, there's already enough turn 4 plays where you don't really need this. If you're going draw 2, then draw 2 more next turn, you have to think about it like you're going to end up wasting your turn to draw 2. which is not bad. I'm not saying that's bad at all. But if you go logo scan, end turn, spy mission, end turn, you're on the 4th turn. They're probably building stuff up, and you haven't been putting any blockers or anything on the board. So your opponent will probably have some open hits. And since you already have a whole bunch of advantage, your opponent probably won't be playing for advantage anymore. They're going to just play completely aggro and just win as fast as they can against you, since they're obviously not going to be able to come back at advantage. So that's why I think Spy Mission isn't that good. But Crystal Memory is a little different, only because it lets you get whatever card you need. Especially in like aggro decks, Crystal Memory really shines, because it can search for whatever finisher you need. When you're running stuff like Bolgash, Unchained, Morna, and Gillaflame, and just cards like that that are just good. They have amazing effects. And they're not as amazing to draw early game, though, which is kind of a drawback to them. But you can prevent this with Crystal Memory. You can run Crystal Memory, and it can be considered like a copy of every boss monster in your deck. If you have a Crystal Memory, play it, search your deck for whichever one you want. If you need Morna, because they have a whole bunch of creatures that you want to attack that they're untapped, get the Morna. If you want Tatsuri on the Unchained, you can get that. If they have a whole bunch of blockers, you can get Bolgash. It just really depends on the situation. And Crystal Memory guarantees you whatever card you want, which is why I think it's good. Well, I shouldn't say guarantee, because there's obviously the chance that the cards are going to be in your Shield Blast, but no card unless, or at least at the moment, because there's no card that lets you take one of your Shield Blasts and add it to your hand. There's no card that would let you add any of those anyways if they were in your Shield Blast. So that's what I think of Control, kind of like the Shield Blast that gives you advantage kind of ones. They're good, but at the moment, with Rush decks being really big, these cards are not good against Rush, because all of these, you have to waste your turn. And this is just from a in-your-hand kind of perspective. If you're playing against like Control, they're not good against Control in the shields, because obviously they break them all at the end, and you can search for everything you want, but it won't matter if you die. Which is why it really depends on what matchup you're playing as to whether or not these are good in the hand, in the shields, both, stuff like that. Alright, so moving on, I'm now going to go over the medium destruction kind of like cards. These cards are pretty much seen in most of the decks that they're played. Well, some of them are. Let's just go over some. I have 4 examples once again. I have Return to the Soil, Bone Blades, Rock Bite, and Tornado Flame. Alright, so just going to read over these. All Shield Blasts. Return to the Soil says put a level 4 lower monster your opponent controls into the mana zone. Your opponent's mana zone, obviously. Bone Blades, level 4 lower creature gets banished. Rock Bite banishes a monster with 3,000 or less power. Tornado Flame banishes a monster with 5,000 or less power. Alright, so these cards are good because, like I've said, they're good. They're decent in your hand, and they're decent in your Shield Blasts. These cards are the ones that are going to prevent you from losing if your opponent's trying to go for game, which is kind of the point of Shield Blasts in some way. So that's why you should be using these. They're cheap, obviously, which is why some people not really find them better than the Terror Pits and stuff like that, but they use them in conjunction with them just because you need as much destruction as possible. So Return to the Soil is a really good card. I'm running this right now in my Fire Nature aggro deck. I think this card's really good in Control and really good in aggro. I don't know as much about Rush. Rush is just one of those weird decks. Just like you can't run that much stuff. I would probably still run this in Rush because you definitely need outs to monsters if you're running Rush. I mean, you can't just rely on stuff like Ice Blade and Comet Missile to get rid of stuff. You have to have other removal too. There's other cards you want to get rid of other than blockers. So I think that Return to the Soil is a decent card. It'll help your opponent, so you have to use it wisely. You can't just use it just to get rid of a card whenever you want. If your opponent, like, if you're afraid of something like a Gilliflame and your opponent has 2 mana or something, you may not want to use Return to the Soil. Granted, that example was kind of bad, considering that if you're using this turn 4, you're probably already going to have more than 2 mana, but I think you guys understand what I'm trying to say. Return to the Soil, you have to think about whether you want to use it or not. You have to think about the combinations of cards your opponent could drop if they have a large mana zone, stuff like that. Bone Blades basically gets rid of the mana zone problem, and it just gets rid of the thing. There's no problem with that. I mean, if you could argue that you can return the card that you get with Bone Blades with Dark Return, that doesn't really matter, in my opinion. I mean, that's not that big of a deal. I mean, either way, at some point in the duel, you're going to have to get rid of it. And if you don't, then they're just going to keep breaking your shields and lose. And you're going to lose, not them. That would be kind of weird. Okay, so Bone Blades, just because of the fact that it doesn't have that disadvantage of fueling your opponent, it makes it kind of like a staple in any dark deck, in my opinion, whether it's control, aggro, or rush. I'm running 3 in my Water Dark control. I wouldn't even consider dropping this to lower than that. It's such a good card, in my opinion. Bone Blades is probably, I don't know if I would say the best out of all of these, because Tornado Flame is an amazing card too, but it's definitely either the first or second best. It's definitely better than Return to the Soil. Then there's Rock Bite, destroy one with 3,000 or less. It's a decent card. It's just, when you think of Tornado Flame, it's the same thing, only hits up to 2,000 more, but with 1 less or 1 more cost. I'm going to talk about both of these at the same time now. With Rock Bite, obviously you have the advantage of being able to play it from your hand earlier. After the 4th turn, though, there's no reason why Tornado Flame is better, which is why I think that Rock Bite is kind of bad. I mean, it's not terrible, but it's not good in comparison to Tornado Flame, and it's probably the worst one of the Shield Blasts I have up here. I would not run this in any deck at the moment, because there's nothing that you need to hit turn 4 that you can't just wait an extra turn and hit with Tornado Flame. I mean, the 2,000, like I said, it's just such a huge difference. It hits more blockers and stuff. It hits anything that's Keeper of Clouds, Frogzuka, just stuff like that are just annoying. You can hit with Tornado Flame. You can't hit with Rock Bite. The 1 extra mana is definitely worth it. And for Tornado Flame, I'd probably run it in any deck using Fire at the moment, because Fire does need some reliable outs to just annoying cards in general. Obviously for blockers you have Comet Missile, but it's good to have the extra cards too, so I think Tornado Flame is an amazing card. So yeah, basically just to wrap up everything that I said in this video, Control Shield Blast at the moment I don't think are that strong. I think Crystal Memory is the only one that is really good and should be played at the moment. And then for medium destruction cards, the medium cost ones, I think that they are pretty good at the moment, because you obviously need destruction. The point of Shield Blast isn't as much for the advantage-wise purpose, which is why the control and the ones that give you advantage, those Shield Blasts aren't as powerful as the ones that can destroy cards. So yeah. I'm going to say that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and peace.